What is the mystery of prayer revealed? The book, The Mystery of Prayer Revealed, is a book that explores the topic of prayer from an original Aramaic and Hebraic perspective, and also from a perspective that is not traditionally offered. The majority of teachings and prayer resources, whether it be a book or a course or an instructor that teaches on the topic of prayer, teach prayer from a what to say perspective. Quote scripture, speak or pray in tongues, tell God how you feel, tell him what you need, all important aspects of prayer. But it wasn't what Jesus taught. And the Mystery of Prayer Revealed is a book that explores Jesus's prayer life from a definitive root word perspective and the prayer model that he taught, the Our Father prayer. And if we look at the fact that Jesus would have never have taught something that he himself wasn't doing, it is important that we understand his prayer life, and that we understand why he taught what he taught in prayer, primarily, and of course, in Matthew chapter 6, verses 6 through 9, and also when he was asked in Luke chapter 11, verses 1 through 3. Those are very important to understand in terms of how they connect with other key places in the scriptures where the Bible clearly, once understood from an original Hebraic and Aramaic perspective, clearly shows us how it was that Jesus himself, as a human being, was able to hear and learn from God such as he did. Jesus would make these landmark statements like, as I hear my Father speak, I speak, and as I see him do, and do likewise. What made him so God conscious to be able to experience a level of hearing and learning from God at that level? Isaiah chapter 50, verses 4 and 5 give us a clue. And in those two verses, it tells us that Jesus would morning by morning go to a place, and he would position himself as one who was being taught. One translation says, as one who was learned. In other words, he wouldn't go and talk to God. He would go and hear and learn from God. And of course, he did talk to God, but it was based off of what he heard and learned. Where traditionally prayer, for the most part, is practiced, demonstrated, and suggested be done in a way where you talk to God. And prior to my being experienced with this level of knowledge from an ancient Hebraic and Aramaic perspective on the topic of prayer, as I was studying Jesus' prayer life and what he taught, what I saw was that I wasn't taught these things. What I was taught was what to say model. The importance of learning to hear the voice of God, of course, was mentioned, but it was never taught. It was never, how do you do it? How do you still yourself the way that Jesus did to experience a level of connectivity that Jesus had as a human being with this God within him? Mark chapter 1, verse 35 is one of the statements that is profound, where it talks about, early before his day even took place, his normal activities, I should say, he would go to a place and he would pray. And he would do this every day of his life. And that word prayed in that verse is key. It's the Hebrew word palal. And what it signifies was an event of instruction. It was a place where Jesus was taught truth from a truth source. It was an environment of education that happened within himself, where God was revealing to him the prescribed things of his life. So not only was he sharing those insights with him, but also he was telling him details on how to accomplish them. This is why Jesus knew, who to pick as disciples, who not to, where to go, where not to go, what to say, not to say, of course. Everything of his life. He was pre-informed of all of his daily activities. The question that I had to ask myself, and the question I ask people today, when you go and pray, do you experience that level of learning and hearing like that? For Julio, the answer was no. And so what the Mystery of Prayer revealed is a book that details not just the insights that you can't understand from an English perspective when you read the Bible about Jesus' prayer life and what he taught. When we read and study the Bible that way, what we get is, of course, English understanding. But we can all attest to the fact that the Bible wasn't written in English originally. It was written in these ancient languages of Hebrew and Aramaic, and some would debate other languages, but the resources that I've been exposed to really unveil, for a lack of a better term, what prayer should be about and what prayer should be originally about. And the original purpose and power of it is that we should be hearing and learning from God just like Jesus did as a human being. So the Mystery of Prayer Revealed is a book that has over 300 pages of life-changing information with over 170 footnotes where every key word related to prayer that I was able to connect with what I was writing, I show you the original meaning and also the resource of where I got the information from. So what the Mystery of Prayer Revealed is, it's a book that unlocks the mystery of why we should be hearing and learning from God just like Jesus did as a human being. That's what the mystery of prayer is all about. It's a level of prayer, of hearing and learning from God that every single human being who believes in God should be experiencing in their life.